All right, thank you for joining me for the DEXA scan report breakdown. This is for the initial scan. It's obviously going to be your baseline, so this will be the first time you're seeing this report. If you have any questions, just hop in that Facebook group, Apex PWR. It's a private group that all of us are in there. So anytime you have questions, just feel free to reach out. It's a great opportunity to help yourself, but also help someone else who might have the same question. So to start with the DEXA scan, it's 3 pages, as you can see in the report that you're holding, and we get a lot of good baseline data. And it's a great starting point for setting goals and changing up your lifestyle to meet those goals. On the first page, on the very top column, we have date measured, obviously the total body fat percentage, which here is 29.9%. This is a percentage of fat mass on your body. We get that number by taking fat plus lean, which is muscle, plus bone, which is over here on the right column. I've actually just excluded it because it's not important for the scan. And then we take that and divide it by total mass. So we're going to get total body fat percentage. We get total mass, which is just your scale weight. Then we take fat tissue, which is your fat mass in pounds, and lean tissue, which is muscle mass in pounds. We love tracking specifically the body fat percentage and the relationship between fat tissue and lean tissue over time, because a lot of times people want to lose weight, but we want to focus on losing fat and maintaining muscle mass. Here's a recommended body fat percentage chart. It's easy to kind of get into the range and set goals based on where you're at today and where you want to be. So first, you can start out by gender, and find for Jaron, this is Jaron's scan. You can find men by percentile, find their age. He's 20 to 29, and body fat range. That range, he's above 27%, so that puts him into the 0 to 20th percentile. This is obviously not great, but that's why he was getting this scan, so he could set some goals. On this next regional composition breakdown, you can see it's a huge chart, tons of numbers, but we're going to focus on these numbers on your next scan. But it's nice to look at your android, gynoid, and these numbers are in relation to your abdomen and your hips. So we're going to compare them on the next page. I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself here, but this is a lot of different numbers that we use on the second, third, fourth, fifth, and on scans that you do because they track as data points. On the second page, we have relative skeletal muscle index. This value is an indication of how much muscle mass a person's body carries. As we age, muscle mass will decrease if we don't do anything about it. So it's always important to make sure you get quality protein intake and weight training to help maintain muscle mass. Healthy range for men is above 7.26 and women 5.45. The fat distribution report, this is one of the more important parts of the test. We have android, which is your abdominal region. Think between your belly button and your belt line. And then the gynoid is your hip region, kind of the level of your pockets in your pants. Men are typically android dominant, whereas women are going to be gynoid dominant. And the AG ratio is an indicator of how your body is storing fat. We want less fat in the android and more fat in the gynoid. Overall, getting both of these numbers to be in a healthy range. Look at the recommended body fat percentage chart that I referred to a couple pages ago. We want to get this down below 1.0, and optimal is to be somewhere around 0.8. The visceral fat is the absolute most important number on the scan. The visceral fat is a deadly fat that surrounds your internal organs behind your abdomen. So we want to get this into an ideal range of 1 pound or less. Obviously, we can see that this is a really high number. And the higher the number, the higher correlation there is to having some sort of diabetes, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, metabolic syndrome occur in your health. The muscle balance report is also, there's a lot of numbers that I actually blocked out here. We're just looking at lean mass. We want to look at right arm versus left arm and right leg versus left leg to see which side is carrying more muscle mass. We like to emphasize the importance of the muscular imbalances in the right arm, left arm, and right leg and left leg, because we started as a physical therapy clinic and we noticed that there can be imbalances in the body from right to left, and those imbalances can increase the likelihood of some sort of chronic injury or chronic pain, a sports injury, an activity related injury that we can help minimize by doing resistance training on both sides of the body. Think of a lunge or a shoulder press with single arm, or something that is going to challenge both right side and left side independently, or they're referred to as unilateral exercises. So we want to make sure that we incorporate those into our daily routine or daily workouts so that we can minimize muscle mass imbalances. If this number here is positive, that means the right side is bigger. So he has 1.2 pounds more on the right side. If it's negative, that means the left side is bigger. So he has 0.9 pounds more muscle mass on his left leg. This person in particular has had a number of knee injuries. So we're not surprised to see that there's an imbalance on the left side of his body with the legs. And then he's carrying right arm dominance in muscle mass. So this is just something that you can stay on top of to make sure that you are making progress over time and trying to get those as close to zero as possible. The last thing on the scan is bone density score. So this is a total body average. We get this number up top. This is just showing us how strong our bones are on average. The higher, the better. So this is 5.6, come down to the scale from negative 1.5 to 2.5. So you can see this person's far off of the scale here, far into the 99th percentile. Makes sense. Men typically have higher bone density, especially if you grew up playing some sort of contact sport, doing gymnastics, doing a lot of plyometric training or whatever it is, or just being outside and putting a lot of impact on the bones as you were growing up. And into later in life, if you're doing a lot of weight training, resistance training helps increase the bone density. So it's really important to make sure you're focusing on bone density over the course of your life, or at least have it in your mind so that you know you're getting stronger over time. And a good way to do that is making sure that you're doing resistance training, some sort of plyometrics, doing a lot of jumping. Running can be great for bone density. And if your bone density is declining, then nutrition is also very important. And weight training is going to be mostly the best thing that you can do for your bone density. So if you have some goals that you set, I highly recommend looking at your body fat percentage, looking at your visceral fat, looking at your AG ratio, and having some goals in mind and setting the goals so that you can attain them in maybe 60 to 90 days. We found that it helps when people set attainable goals with a plan. So if you have a number that you can track, which you can find a lot on the DEXA scan, and then use the numbers like body fat percentage or total fat pounds or muscle mass or visceral fat, it's easy to set clear goals and create a plan of action. And after 60 or 90 days, you check back in, see where your body's at. If you're making a positive trend, that's great. If there's a negative trend and you're not losing fat like you want to, and maybe you're losing body or muscle mass, that's okay too. But it's great to check in and see where your body's at so that you can make sure you're making progress over time. So setting a DEXA follow-up date helps to keep you accountable and have a deadline to work towards. So be sure to set some goals and get on the schedule so you can crush them.